Welcome back to King's Corner. I'm your host, Christian King, and today we're going to talk about what is going on. And I know when I say what's going on, everybody's probably thinking in their heads, what's he talking about? What does he mean, what's going on? Here's what I want to talk about today. So the past 2 days, I'm sorry I didn't do an episode yesterday, by the way. Didn't cross my mind, had a little bit of homework. But last 2 days, I've just heard the same thing over and over and over again. Is the XFL not going to have good quarterback play? Is the XFL not good? Is the XFL going to fail again? I mean, the ratings went down and blah, 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 blah. Hey, media, shh. Nothing's wrong with the XFL. Quarterback play, sure, some teams don't have great quarterback play, but some teams do. Here, I'll name them for you. Stop looking at negative, let's look at the positive. Defenders, probably the top two quarterback in the league outside of P.J. Walker. P.J. Walker and Cardell Jones, great. But I know some of you like, it's just 2 out of 8. Okay. You know what? They're tier 1. Let's go down to tier 2. Landry Jones, Josh Johnson. They're good. There's not, hold up, tier 2, I forgot one person. Jordan Tahamu. And I know some of you like, he's 22 years old. He's not going to do that good. You know what Jordan Tahamu is? The XFL's version of a scrambling type of Drew Brees. Or, in my eyes, I see him as the non-injury prone Tua Tagovailoa. Just a poor man's version. Jordan Ta'umu is good all across the board. He made some turnovers on Sunday that were, yet again, he was going against the Roughnecks. Let's give him that. Let's give him a pass. He's still a rookie. But he makes some passes that just go, wow! And he can run too, which means he's a dual threat quarterback, which is amazing to watch. I don't want to hear the XFL doesn't have great quarterbacks, because there's only 3 teams that don't have good quarterbacks. And actually, one team actually has a average quarterback in Brandon Silvers. Silvers is good. The only 2 teams that don't have a bona fide stud at quarterback or a average Joe at quarterback is New York and Tampa. And it's not their fault that this is still early in the season. And I know, AAF had the same problem, but also let's talk about what the AAF never had. Go ahead, look this up. Did the AAF ever have a 4-touchdown passer in a game? No, the AAF barely had a quarterback that made it over 4 touchdowns their entire season. Okay, that's just one guy. I understand. Let's look at this. So I saw a stat the other day that showed XFL quarterbacks versus AAF quarterbacks. XFL quarterbacks for 2 weeks have thrown 25 touchdowns, 17 picks. It's phenomenal. AAF quarterbacks through 2 weeks, 19 touchdowns, 22 picks. If that doesn't show the XFL is blowing away the stats at quarterback away, and I know. The AAF should not be being compared to the XFL. The XFL is better. I don't care. Outside of the XFL 2001, what's the last startup league we've had? AAF. I can't compare the XFL to the USFL of the 1980s, or the AFL that lasted from 2000 to 2010, but that was arena football, which was trying to be a totally different league. The only leagues I can compare it to are the AAF. And that's the only place I can compare it to. It's not our fault that we haven't had that many competitors. And I know every single league has gone to the graveyard, or in the AFL of the 60s that joined with the NFL's case, joined the NFL. And what I'm trying to say with that is, the XFL is trying to do something no league has ever done before. Last and stay out of the NFL's view. Do I think it's going to happen? It has a chance to last 4 seasons that way, but I think after 2, I think what you guys are going to see, the XFL and the NFL are going to rely to try and take college football out of the aspect. And you're probably like, why would college players do that? I'll give you 3 reasons why. National spotlight outside of college. Spring. And you're getting paid. Quarterbacks in the XFL make triple digits. And I know, triple digits, they could be making 4 digits in the NFL. They're not allowed to enter the NFL for 3 years of eligibility. And I know the wide receivers, corners, and all them, they'll make $50,000. But if the XFL joins up with the NFL, you know what that could do for the XFL? that could increase incomes, which means they could get every player into 3 digits and maybe make the quarterback a 4-digit. But hopefully if the XFL ever joins up with the NFL, they keep one thing about it, the XFL-ness. Because I don't know if you guys have realized this, but I want you guys to look at the ratings. Over all the sports that are going on right now, in all the sports cities except Tampa and New York, I want you to look up which teams are getting the most views on television in the sports cities. I'll give you a hint. 5 out of the 6 places I just said, outside of New York and Tampa, are being blown away by the XFL. I'll say it like this. More Washington, D.C. TV ratings. The D.C. Defenders ratings for 2 games are already higher than any Redskins game that was not against the Eagles or Cowboys. And when I say that is, the Redskins only ever get on TV when they're playing the Redskins or when they're playing the Cowboys or Eagles. And that's because those are 2 top marquee teams in the league. And as bad as it hurts me to say Cowboys are a marquee team, they're a great branding team. They're going to bring in views, just like the Eagles are. The only difference is the Eagles can actually succeed when they have expectations sometimes. And I know the Eagles didn't do great this year, but nobody was expecting them to go down injury riddled. Last year's Eagles team, the 2018 Eagles team, the one that made the playoffs and lost to the Saints in the division round, was the most injured team to make the playoffs in the past 10 years. Now, let's look at the 2019 Eagles, which destroyed the 2018 Eagles in injuries. Because not only was their offense depleted, their defense was depleted. So I want you guys to look at this. The Eagles in 2019 were injury riddled up and down, but they still made the playoffs for the first time in 14 years. And you're probably wondering how I went from the XFL to Philadelphia, and here's why. If the XFL keeps the XFL-ness about them, we're going to be able to compare teams like that in a couple of years. And that would be the most amazing thing. The only thing that's keeping the XFL down right now is because nobody's emotionally attached to teams yet. But people are starting to become. I think 2 years, maybe 3 years, the XFL is going to expand outside of the 8 cities. Or it wouldn't shock me at the end of this season if Tampa Bay resigns their team out of Tampa because nobody's going to watch them. They're the worst team in the league. And I don't blame anybody that doesn't want to watch them. If you have to ask me if Tampa needs a replacement, the team that will probably get them is going to be up north in only 3 places. Philly, Pittsburgh, or Baltimore. One of those 3 teams will be getting an XFL team soon. And that's because the support for the XFL in those areas are huge right now. And could you imagine the fans that Philadelphia would bring into the XFL? No offense to Pittsburgh and Baltimore, but when you think of the most outrageous and hilarious fans on the Eastern Shoreline, there's only one fan base that compares, and that's the Eagles. And I don't want to hear from Cowboys saying, hey, we're up there. No, you're not. You know what Cowboys are? They're the most cooperative, corporate fans in the league. Because when the Cowboys are winning, hey, our team's winning. When they're losing, Cowboys fans, hello, you there? No, you won't find one. You can't find one. It's impossible. You have more chance of finding a needle in a haystack than you do of finding a Cowboys fans when they're 2-14. And that's just the truth. Well, even though I know this is a negative thing about Philadelphia, it's still a hilarious thing. In Philadelphia, if their team sucks, you're still going to hear it. Because what's Philadelphia push their players to do that not a lot of cities can do? Put effort in. Look at Joel Embiid. Why is he not doing good in Philadelphia right now? He can't handle the spotlight of having to put in 100% effort every single time. Ben Simmons is the same way. Why do you think Carson Wentz was able to get out of that rut? Because he was finally able to find out his identity again. And I know some of you are going to be, he hasn't been the same quarterback since 2017. No, he's been better since 2017. 2018, he was injured. 2017 was good, don't get me wrong. 2019 was the best year of his career, by far. Because he showed me something I didn't even know he had in him. He carried us to the playoffs. You can ask the one guest we had on here, Justin. That week, I called him up. I said, congratulations on the division. Because I knew he was leading us on a good run, but that was against the Giants and Redskins. and they were last-second victories, and the Cowboys were coming off a 44-16 win against the Rams. I didn't expect to win that game. But Carson Wentz said, hold my beer. Let me go win the division real quick, and we'll be back. And what did he do? He came out there, had the fastest start since 2017, and was making lasers across that field. It was incredible. I loved every second of it. But let me get off of the XFL format, and let me just focus on the new NFL rule I just heard Adam Schefter report about 30 minutes ago. Adam Schefter just came out and said the NFL is probably going to have a new playoff policy next year. Instead of 6 teams, they're going to have 7 teams, and only 1 team will get a bye. And I know that sounds a little confusing, but I think it might be great for the league. Because they realized this past year, when the Eagles in the NFC East just absolutely sucked, there were teams that missed out. Like the Rams should have been in the playoffs. Cowboys really didn't deserve, but they could have gotten in. The Falcons made a last-second push to get in, but I don't really think they were eligible. The Bears should have made it. The Bears, they were good enough. It's about really it for the NFC, but the AFC is the same way. The Pittsburgh Steelers should have made it because they had the coach of the year, Mike Tomlin. I don't care if John Harbaugh won it. He was not the best coach in his division this year. I want you guys to look at this. John Harbaugh had Lamar Jackson in a bottle, and he let it loose, and it dominated. That's great coaching by him. He coached them up. But who is Mike Tomlin's quarterback? A guy named Duck? Or how about Mason Rudolph, the guy who said the N-word? I don't really think he said it, but he said it. You guys got to think about this. What's the most important position in football? It's quarterback. You can't win without a quarterback. Any league you go in, you can't win without a quarterback. The last 10 Super Bowls, all won by marquee Super Bowl champion or a quarterback that elevates his play in the postseason. Because I know what I'm going to hear as soon as I post this video. Nick Foles is not a top quarterback. Eli Manning not a top quarterback. Or Joe Flacco not a top quarterback. Not in regular season. No. Playoffs? I don't know if you could tell me I'd take a better quarterback over those 3 in the playoffs. Even though Nick Foles only had 1 great playoff run. But Eli, 2. Joe Flacco, every single one he's ever played in. When those 2 get to the playoffs, I'm going to exclude Nick Foles out of this for a minute. When Eli and Joe make the playoffs, it's entertaining. I love watching because they make decisions that they usually don't make in the regular season, and I don't know why, but it's fun to watch because they look like Tom Brady times 10 in the playoffs. And I know that's hard to say, but they do. So what I'm trying to say with that there is if the NFL expands the playoffs like it sounds like they're going to, that gives us one great opportunity to see more great quarterbacks. Because does anybody remember when the Eagles won the Super Bowl but the wild card weekend, 2017, when you had the Chiefs and Titans, and Marcus Mariota brought the Titans back down 21-3 and 122-21? I remember watching that game at a friend's house, and I was amazed. I loved every second of it, and I thought Marcus Mariota was going to go on. He lost to New England and hasn't been the same since. And then we're going to go on to this past year, Ryan Tannehill. And I know he only had a couple of games where it was like, and he didn't even throw over 100 yards for 2 of the games. But what a lot of people will exclude that from that is he was making the passes he had to make. When he had to make a pass, he was able to make it. And I know Kansas City wasn't able to, but Kansas City is probably one of the coldest places to play a football game. If you ask me, would I rather play in sunny Tennessee or frigid Kansas City or frigid Green Bay? Take me to sunny Tennessee every single day. And I know we played in Foxborough, but come on, Foxborough's not that cold. I believe I read at game time of that game was 42 degrees. Whoop-de-doo, that's a cold football game. Kansas City was at 20 degrees. That's not throwing weather. So if we add more quarterbacks to the NFL playoff picture, that's just going to make the NFL more entertaining. And another thing I hope the NFL does, as Adam Schefter reported, is I hope they add another game and subtract 3 preseason games. Because the NFL is starting to realize this trend that Sean McVay started 3 years ago. We're not going to play our stars in the preseason. Nobody's doing it anymore. And I don't know why, because as you saw in week 1 through week 4 this year, teams were slow coming out of the gates. but we also had more healthy stars at the beginning of seasons than we usually do. As an Eagles fan, I was kind of sad not to see Wentz in the preseason season because I haven't seen him since December 10th, 2018. Then he came back September 8th, but I wanted to see him again. And I'm sure that's a lot of cases with the other fans. They haven't seen their quarterbacks play in a while, and they want to see them play. Fans love the stars, but I think we got to cut the preseason out because when we watch a football game, we want to see stars. We don't want to see bums. And I know that kind of contradicts itself when I talk about the XFL. But the XFL actually makes those bums look like stars, and they throw them up as if they're stars. While in the NFL, if you're not a top key name, sorry about your luck. I think I'm going to end this video here. Thank you for watching this episode of King's Corner. Have a nice day.